Hey, Kim here from Still Spirits, and today I'm going to be taking you through how to set up and use the Create Plus Alembic dome and condenser. And today we'll be making a rum using molasses wash that we've prepared earlier, so follow us along. Please note that in certain countries, alcohol distillation and the possession of distilling equipment is illegal and permits and licenses may be required. For guidance or advice, contact your relevant local authorities. First, we're going to connect the threaded adapter to the dome so that we can connect the Alembic condenser using a tri-clamp. Remove the DN40 nut and the sieved gasket from the threaded adapter set, then sit the adapter on a flat surface threaded side up. With the inside facing towards you, fit the Alembic dome onto the threaded adapter, secure it using the DN40 nut, and then tighten it firmly. Attach the Alembic condenser to the dome using a 2-inch tri-clamp and tighten this firmly. Use the mounting bracket provided to secure the thermometer to the condenser. Place the probe into the thermowell. You can also use a wire tie to tidy up any of the loose wiring. First, we're going to perform a stripping run of our molasses wash. This will strip the wash down and will allow us to capture as much distillate from the wash as possible. After this, we'll dilute the spirit and rerun it in what is called a spirit run to further refine our spirit. Fill your boiler with your wash, followed by your ceramic boil enhancers and distilling conditioner. Place the dome assembly onto the boiler and secure it with the clips. Next, attach the water inlet and outlet tubing, followed by the distillate outlet tubing. Ensure the water outlet tubing is running into a sink. Connect the water inlet tube to your water supply using the tap adapters provided. Briefly turn on the cooling water to ensure there are no leaks in your system. Connect the power to the boiler and turn the boiler on. If you're using the Still Spirits boiler 25 litre with dual element control switches, make sure both power switches are set to the on position to maximise power. Place your collection vessel under the distillate outlet tubing, making sure that this tubing is never submerged in distillate. Once the thermometer reaches 55 degrees Celsius, turn on the water so that the water flow rate is between 2 to 2.5 litres per minute. Distillate should start coming out soon, and as this is a stripping run, we haven't taken any cuts. Collect the distillate until it reaches approximately 30% ABV, then turn off the boiler and disconnect the power. Turn off your cooling water supply and wait for the boiler contents to cool before discarding. Now that we've performed a stripping run, it's time for us to complete a spirit run to refine our rum spirit. Firstly, you'll need to dilute your spirit to below 40% ABV with water. Pour this into the boiler, making sure you don't exceed 25 litres. Next, add your ceramic boil enhancers and your distilling conditioner. Set up the dome and the condenser as we did earlier in this video, then attach it to the boiler and fasten it with the clips. Connect to the cooling water supply and check again that you have no leaks by briefly turning on this supply. Connect the boiler to the power supply and turn it on, making sure that you turn both switches on if using a dual element boiler. It should take approximately 60 minutes for this to reach boiling temperature. We'll be taking cuts of the spirit during this process using small, numbered containers with a volume of around 150 ml. Make sure that you also label these with heads and tails so you know which jars are which when it comes around to blending. When the thermometer reaches 55 degrees Celsius, turn on the water so that the water flow rate is between 2 to 2.5 litres per minute. Collect the 4 shots, usually the first 200 ml, and discard these. Switch the boiler to one element if you'd like a slower and more controlled distillation. Next, your distillation will be entering the head section, which contains a lot of the lower boiling point components as well as ethanol. If using a parrot head, we recommend setting this up now. Collect the head section into your small, numbered containers, putting them to the side once they're full. Once the temperature reaches around 83 to 85 degrees Celsius, the head section is complete. If you're using a parrot head, this will generally be spirit above 65% ABV. Now we're onto the heart section of our distillation. These are usually the best part of your spirit and will make up the base of your blend. Swap the small jar for a larger collection vessel and collect the spirit down to approximately 40% ABV or until your temperature reaches around 90 degrees Celsius. Now we are onto the tail section of our spirit run. We'll collect the tails in the same way that we collected the heads, with small numbered containers. Once the temperature hits between 93 and 95 degrees Celsius, the tail section should be complete. Collect the remaining spirit between 20 to 30% ABV or until the temperature reaches 98 degrees Celsius. The spirit collected between 20 and 30% ABV won't be used for your blending, but you can keep this to add to future spirit runs. Once the spirit is below 20% ABV, turn the boiler off and disconnect it from the power outlet. Turn off the water supply and allow the boiler contents to cool prior to disposing of them. At the end of your distillation, you'll have collected heads, hearts, and tails. The reason that we've collected the heads and tails into small samples is that they won't all be a good addition to your final product. This brings us to blending. When blending your spirit, work your way through tasting and smelling each of the samples, diluting them with water and taking your time. Add as much as you'd like of the contents of the jars that you're happy with to your hearts container. Add any spirit you don't use to a separate container and keep this for future stripping runs. If you're making a white rum, no aging is required, so you can dilute your distillate to 40% ABV and allow this to settle for a few days prior to enjoying. However, today we are aging our rum using an oak spiral to create a dark rum. To do this, dilute your final spirit down to 60% ABV with filtered or distilled water in a glass jar or demijohn. Add in some oak spirals or chips and leave it in a cool, dark area to age. Leave it for a minimum of 3 weeks, then dilute it down to 47% ABV, leaving it for another 3 weeks, and diluting it further to 40% ABV. Adding the water slowly will give the spirit a more well-rounded flavour. Taste the spirit periodically until you're happy with it. This should be a minimum of 2 months. Once you're happy, strain it off the oak and bottle it.